First, welcome to Graphics Pro Expo, Irving, Texas. Really glad to have y'all here. Today, we're unveiling GPX Theater. So this is the first time we've done this. And today I'm talking to Nathan and Charli Belz. They're the leadership team for Impress Designs in Carrollton, Texas, Dallas area. The company has been in business for 45 years. It's the 45th year. Nathan has kind of been handling operations for the past 15 years. Charli's been with the company now 11 years, is that correct? Okay, so y'all have gone from a kind of a boutique screen printer to a very large operation. Nathan was just telling me that they just had a million-piece job that they're working on. It's the largest job they've ever done. So things are crazy right now at Impress Designs. Let's start with that. How do you handle a job of that scope, of 1 million pieces?
Well, I might have to let you know when we get done with it.
Right.
A million-piece job, that's definitely by far the biggest job that we've ever handled. Yeah, for a single job, single print, this job will take us about 3 months is what this job's going to take. And a lot of logistics went into figuring it out. Just the quoting on a project like that alone is an immense undertaking because you have costs that you have to consider with not only what is the job going to cost me, but what opportunities am I going to miss out on because I'm taking this big job. At a million pieces, we're going to tie up 6 presses for 3 months, day and night. And if another job comes around that has a more beneficial margin on it, we won't be able to take that if all of our presses are full. And right now, the industry is absolutely stuffed with work, and you very likely are going to be missing out on projects depending on what projects you are taking. Just the sheer management of handling and holding a million pieces is quite a task. They don't fit in a lot of places. And we have to hold them all the entire time, and we won't be shipping them out for about 4 months. So, a lot of logistics.
I also think a big part of that is, yay, we're excited, it's a million-piece job, that's really cool, right? And it is, and we're really excited about it. But to take it, we had to be in a place to be able to, just overall, as a company mindset. And 3 years ago, if you had asked us, take a million-piece job, one run, I would have been like, yay, let's do it. But there would have been no way we could have. We didn't have the structure, we just had never done anything like that. And once again, a million-piece orders, the biggest one we've ever done. But we have worked our way up to that, to where we've gotten, we have a couple, whatever you want to call it, under your belt. I'm not super great with the actual expressions, but you know what I mean. So I think that is, I think that's really important with that. Just my 2 cents.
Well, let's talk about that. What were the keys to growing Impress Designs over the years? Because I think y'all have mentioned before that there was kind of a crossroads for you maybe 10, 15 years ago where you had to get over that hump. So what were the keys, what were the most important things that y'all learned in growing Impress Designs that allowed you to do that?
I started working there, I'd been there, we got married, we very quickly had our son, and I think he was maybe 4 months old, and we were on to the next baby, right? And it was planned. People ask me that a lot. That was our choice, right? And I just remember Nate calling me and saying, do you want to do this? Is this what you want to do? Like, seriously, like, do or die right now. Are we going to go to Florida and get these 2 more presses, and I personally am going to break down every press and then bring it back to Texas and personally put it all together? And I've got a 4-month-old on this hip, and I've got a phone on this, and I'm sitting there like, yeah, that's what and I get teary about it, because I'll never forget it. Yes, that is what we want to do. And I knew it was going to be hard, and I knew it was going to be hard on him, but I didn't have specifics of what it was going to entail as we got there, but I knew that's what we wanted to do. And I knew that it was going to be hard when we faced the sacrifices we needed to do, or the obstacles we had to get over, but that we were willing to do them. I might have to do it with a baby on this hip and a baby on that hip, and however it was needed to be done, we were ready to do it. And so I just remember at that moment, it was, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put everything into it, and that's that. And I will never forget that moment, ever.
So my wife's the one with the stories, and she's the more personable one. I am the logical, put it on paper, make the processes. So how did we actually, get there? There was that moment that she talked about, and quite frankly, that moment's happened 20 times since then. Do we still want to do this? Do we want to take it to the next level? Do we want to spend another $200,000 or $400,000? I don't think when you're running a business that you're doing it right. If you don't doubt yourself every once in a while, if you don't cry every once in a while, if you don't, get frustrated every once in a while, it's an emotional roller coaster. But to really develop the business into a way that gets there to become a larger business, if that's your goal, and that doesn't have to be your goal by any means, because a big business is a lot different than what it was 20 years ago for us when we had 13 people. It's about planning. It is. I go back to college and think about all the things my professor said. We had to make plans. I've written business plans and projections and 10-year plans and 5-year plans so many times that I wish I had cataloged them all, because I could just go back and look at how dumb I was 10 years ago on my last 5-year plan, because that's not.
But you're saying the planning helped you, right?
But the planning was tremendous, and because you can't do it without a plan. If you don't know that you're going to, at that time we decided to go into doing a lot more wholesale contract work. To do that, we needed to reach into more equipment. We had more material handling needs. We had to get warehouse. We had to get forklifts, and you can't have any of that without safety procedures and policies. And you can't put those things in place all at one time. You need to have them in place before you get to that level. I think it's critical when you want to grow a business to not only write down where you want to go, how do you want to get there, but then especially figure out how you're going to communicate that to everybody in your business. Because if your team doesn't know where you're going or how you're going to get there, they're not going to be able to help. And it can't be you. You can't run a business by yourself. I would have a mental breakdown if I had to do everything by myself. And believe me, I've tried. I've tried to do it all by myself, and it's not beneficial to anybody.
Have you found an effective way to communicate that to the employees, what your vision is and so on? Is that something that you've learned to do better over the years?
Yeah, I've actually had to learn it new a few different times. Our employee base has changed, and when you're small, we had monthly pizza parties every Monday. On the first Monday of the month, we had a pizza party. Everybody got together. We'd do a meeting and talk to everybody. Right now we have over 200 employees on multiple shifts. A big portion of those are, we have a portion of our employee base that's Spanish only speaking. I can't stand up in front of a room as easily and handle my team and talk to them about where we're going. So we have technology. Our technology has been one of the key aspects. So developing an employee website that has news posted on it. So yesterday, for instance, we posted news about us being here today, and then if any employees wanted to go, they could talk to a manager so they could come out. We'll also post videos and highlights of this conversation on there so that people see what we think of what we're talking about. We're looking at starting our own internal podcast really soon with some of our leadership so that we can communicate those needs to those people. And having that internal employee site and the way that we market it, it's only good if everybody uses it and if it's active, because nobody goes to the employee site if it doesn't do anything for them, and it's 3-week-old articles that don't mean anything. So putting meaningful content on there, we do some things that we put on there, polls for employees for what they think we should do with this portion of funding, or how we can grow the business. What are we going to do on bad weather days? Are our policies working? We ask our employees these things on these pages so we get that interaction. And it's set up with both a Spanish and English concept so that anybody can go to that site and access that information. And I think technology has helped a lot. Organizing helps a lot. When I first started really running the business, I probably wrote 100 policies, and I probably lost 100 policies in the same time. Nobody knew what they were. They were in some file somewhere that even I had forgotten about. And building a structure and organization system to, again, handle that, but make it so that everybody else in your team can handle it is critical.
And so I do a lot of sales plus, just whatever has to happen, right? Someone has to do it, I'll do it. But I remember we had just started growing our sales team, and she was like, well, what about this and what about that? And I'm like, because they don't know the background we came from, right? And that was something that was really important for everyone to understand. We just went from like 25 people to now we're at 75, and now we're at 100. And so it's a learning curve for us, and so bear with us, but we're getting there, and we want your help, I want your feedback, but at the same time, it's not going to be perfect right now. And so I think just as much as getting your team and employees on the same page as to where you're going at that critical point where you do start to grow, they also need to understand where you've been and how it's going along, because they can't, someone comes and asks me for some sort of budget for this specific thing and whatever, and I'm like, I don't know, but I just, 3 weeks ago was telling someone, like, hey, can you do that? You know what I mean? So much more casual, and to just be able to have them understand that, and that we're growing towards something more streamlined and effective for them.
And speaking of streamlined, what criteria do y'all use when looking at getting new equipment?
That one went to me. Okay. So we actually have this conversation a lot, and the first thing you have to ask when you're going to buy new equipment is, where am I going? We wrote down our plans so that we know what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to be doing contract work so that we could expand our volume, so that we could get more managers in, so that we could, because I didn't want to be on the floor every minute of the day, and I wanted to have a big enough group that we needed managers in different departments to keep things running. So when we look at buying equipment, we need to know, A, where do we want to go? If I'm going to need to expand my business in a year, and I'm going to need 3 more presses to accommodate the volume that I'm expecting to get in, first thing I have to ask is, am I willing to bring in 2 new presses right now, spend the $20,000 in electrical and equipment upgrades and everything to get it in place, get it installed, and then break it all back down 3 months later? If you don't have that plan, you can't get there. Now, when I actually make the decision that we want to buy something, we attend a trade show a lot like this to look at the different equipment. There's a lot of things that show up on YouTube and a lot of feedback, but don't go on the screen printing forums on Facebook. They're horrible. But there's a lot of really good information out there in some of the more niche groups, looking for mentors and people in the industry. Here just in DFW in the area, we're not competitors with all of our competition. We are competitors, but we're also friends with a lot of them. A lot of the people in this business have worked in these other shops. We go tour other shops, we go look at them, we ask other people what their experiences are with the equipment that they're running, what their feedback is. We might even send jobs off to somebody to do it. We do the same thing for those people because you need those relationships. One of the things I think that's hugely overlooked when you're looking at buying new equipment, though, is resale. Because a lot of this equipment, there may be 2 machines on the market. Embroidery is notorious for this. And those 2 machines might be one might be slightly better than the other. It could go either way, just depending on the situation. But one of them may have a much higher resale value in 5 years. And if one machine depreciates 80%, the other machine depreciates 10%, that significantly impacts your ROI. So resale, maintenance is the other one. There's brands of equipment that have better maintenance support in your area, and if it's critical equipment, things like a air compressor, or if you're running a screen print press, you want to make sure that you have technicians and people in your area that can service that equipment. It's your lifeblood. You cannot be down. So maintenance is one of the other things that we look at above everything else. And then once we go past that, we're going to jump into all the normal business processes of, what is my ROI going to be? Is it a good machine? What's my output compared to other machines? And so that we can look at making sure that it's going to sustain a positive cash flow over the course of a month.
How does your business break down between embroidery and printing, apparel printing? And I say printing without the screen in front of it, because I know y'all do some DTG, is that correct? Y'all do some other processes?
Absolutely. So we do DTG, we do some UV printing, we do some laser engraving and cutting, we do embroidery, and we do screen printing. Screen printing was what we started. My family started the business in 1977, and my mom was a screen printer. It was an art project, of all things, that got this thing going. So she was an arts artist, and in 1977, that was a lot different type of screen printing. It was very artistic. Very manual. I've got film. I actually pulled out a set of films the other day from 1979 that still say 1979, like tubing, going down to the rapids on a tube for somebody's birthday party. Hand cut amber lids, if you know what that is. It's old school. But I would say that probably about 60% of our shop is handling screen printing, about 30% is embroidery, and then the 10% gets broken up among the other three. DTG is not a huge part of what we do. It's more, we originally got into DTG because we needed to, we don't have a lot more room for equipment, and we needed to alleviate space on presses by running smaller jobs. So we wanted to be able to pull those off of press so that we had more room for our bigger equipment. But when you're talking about numbers and percentages, the dollars don't break down the same. Embroidery has a lot of cost of goods that go with it. And so you can do a 500-piece Under Armour. We do a lot of Under Armour. 500-piece Under Armour job, and that looks a lot different than a 5,000-piece T-shirt job. And it takes a lot less people. We have 60 people in our facility that just handle what we call VAS, which is value-added services. That would be finishing, tagging, store packaging, warehousing and fulfillment, things like that. So we expand beyond just that decorator component with a big portion of that.
What are the biggest mistakes that you've made, that you've learned from, right?
But which one? I got a book. There's probably a million mistakes that I've made. I probably made one today or yesterday, I'm sure. I'm not exaggerating at all. We do this on a daily basis, And this is a complex industry. It is a living, breathing industry that's changed dramatically in the last couple of years. It's not like it was 2 years or 10 years or 20 years ago. When you get into the mistakes that we've made, now let me think if I've got a specific one.
And let's put a pin in that. Let's come back to how the industry's changed even over 2 years. But go ahead, I want to finish this slide.
Whenever we, as a company, for instance, we decided to grow the business in right about 2007 and to really invest a lot of money into it. If anybody knows what happens in 2008, it was the crash of the economy, and it was one of the hardest things on us we had to let people go. We had to restructure. We were up to like 10 reps handling things in our sales and service area. We were down to 1 by the end of the year. I think that some of the things that are mistakes are often, I hate the idea that mistakes are how you learn. 400 boxes delivered by UPS and FedEx a day. A lot of them are 2 or 3 pieces. Since the pandemic, I think we're getting 600 because everything comes in 2 boxes. and there's 1 piece in this box and 1 in that box and 1 in that box. Just since then, I mean, adapting, we had to grow our receiving area by about 40% since the pandemic, just to be able to handle all the packages sitting around waiting for everything else to come in. But since the pandemic, it really started a cycle of changes for everybody. I mean, if you watch the news, you can tell, right? Where the supply chains, you talk about supply chains in here, everybody's going to get stressed out. There's nobody can get product. Even as a contract decorator, we don't do all the purchasing ourselves. We do some of it for our customers, but our customers, I can't tell you how many POs get placed and they get canceled because something happened with the goods or they couldn't get them in. We have 400 or 500 open back orders for contract orders where people have ordered things and 1 or 2 pieces can't get in. But normally we would have about 50. So the pandemic obviously started, we had to adapt to being smaller, we had to, as a larger company, especially when you're working with anybody that's requiring compliance audits and things like that, we had to put in a lot of safety processes and things for our teams. I honestly thought things would be halfway back to normal about a year ago. And yeah, right? It's worse. It's better and worse, right? I think I have more requests for work now than we've ever had. I have less people to do the work than we've ever had. And I'm paying more to the same people to do the same job. And quite frankly, they're very likely not making any more money in the real world. But those changes really impacted our industry in particular. I talk to people every day in this industry who are struggling with labor. The group the traditional screen print and embroidery operator group has had a lot of turnover, a lot of quits, a lot of people changing industries, a lot of people job hopping, and you better have those policies and processes in order especially if you're of any kind of volume, because you need to be able to get. I have 10 to 15 employees start almost every day right now. I mean, I'm not exaggerating a lot. They come in, they do training, then they go through stuff, and I mean, 5 of them are gone by halfway through the day, and it's not because we're a horrible company, but it's just because they can, and I can't, as a screen print decorator company, we can offer a lot when you're talking about growth opportunities. If you want to come in, you don't know how to do what we do, I can put you in the back of the dryer. You're not going to make what you would make working at a big retail distributor in a warehouse. But in 3 months, you can be a puller, and 3 months later, you can be running a press, and 3 months later, you can be managing a group of presses. If you do your homework and you really care about what you're doing. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said it would only take 9 months to get up to the front. But you have that opportunity for expansion in our industry and to make more money. But it's really hard because the people coming in, if they don't know what they're doing, it's not there a lot of times. Not, at least not for us. And prices in this market are slowly creeping up because a lot of decorators in our industry are mom and pops, and that's great. I mean, we were a mom and pop. I sometimes wish I was. It would be easier sometimes, but because of that, they don't have to be as responsive as I do because they don't feel the employment challenges as fast as I do. We don't. I can lose a lot of employees over 5-10 days. I lose more employees than somebody else will hire in a year. And it's much easier to keep them when you're smaller and you have opportunities for them. But everybody's going to be feeling it over the next year, and it will continue to grow and continue to. The job market will continue to be very volatile, which has made it difficult. And if you don't have things in order for people to be able to walk in and start a job and understand how to do it, you're not going to have the time to train them and get them up to speed and make them an effective employee.
Have y'all found any ways to overcome the supply challenges that you're having? Are you, from the supply side, are you seeing challenges with inks, for example? Obviously with blanks, and I've heard about the colors, different blank colors, so on and so forth. Have y'all found some ways to overcome that, or to work with your clients in such a way that they're, maybe they don't get exactly what they want?
He will cover the inks and whatnot, and I will talk about apparel-wise and everything. First off, our bread and butter is not custom orders, as we've talked about. It's a lot of contract orders. However, we do have custom orders. 2 years ago, it was a lot easier to navigate, right? I can go one place, I can get it all, I'm gonna get it on one shipment, we're good to go. Now I've got people who haven't done that, so I have to teach them, let's sit down and let's figure out where your 100 pieces are gonna come from these 7 different vendors, and they may switch sizes, and they may this, and so it's been a really big learning curve that way to teach our people how to do that, but then also you have those customers that don't understand that, right? They're like, what do you mean I can't get the 7 same, whatever. They don't understand because they're not there. And so then it's educating them and our employees on how to deal with that and how to navigate it. And the vendors we work with have been really awesome and really amazing at helping us with that, which has made it a lot easier with relaying information with our customers and our employees. It's really, we've just had to get pretty creative with it. And you have to have people that are flexible with it, and they have to be understanding. I just had someone last week that was like, well, you said it was going to be, and I said, I did, and that was the impression I was under. However, I got an email last night at 6:50 p.m. and they said, you're not gonna get that, and unfortunately, I can't do anything about that. I legit can't do anything about it. And so it's kind of, to me, getting everyone on board and understanding the actual reality of what's happening, and that has affected us so much, just like I said, learning curve wise, communication wise. We're all just learning as we go, all together, trying to figure out who I can buy the freaking white shirt from. So, and that's how it's affected us. And I keep my fingers crossed, and like every day I'm like, so how many white shirts you got? How many black shirts you got? Can you let me know? Okay, But if they're not there, I gotta go to someone else. You got it? You got it? Okay, all right, let's do this. And so it's just a everyday type of thing, everyday assessment, depending on the customer and depending on how my employees know how to navigate that.
I'd like to jump in for just a second as well. Start my TED talk here. The supply chain is absolutely a challenge for everybody. I'm not going to get into as much with the inks and everything like that. Everybody's going to have a different experience with that depending on your distributor. I hope you have a good relationship with them. If you don't, take them to lunch. Because there are times that I've talked to people who got cut off from one supplier and 3 other suppliers wouldn't let them purchase from them because they weren't existing customers. So, having that versatility with suppliers is important, making sure. I'm ordering ink off of eBay sometimes, just Amazon. Those are things I've never done before. We typically order a drum of white at a time. I'm ordering about 5, and I probably have 10 on order, just so that we're covered. And then we don't know if it's going to get worse. But let me tell you, the supply chain issues are absolutely opportunities for you if you know how to work it. And I'm not selling goods, so this is free advice here, but this is your chance to go to your customers and be proactive. To send them an email and say, I know it's 3 months before your run that you do every year. There are supply chain problems and you're not going to be able to get this. Here's what's in stock right now. I would recommend you jump on it right now. Your customers are going to look at you and go, you are great. I appreciate you watching out for me and making sure I'm covered. You're now covering somebody and bringing orders up the chain, filling your facility, and you can do it whenever you're slow. If you've got a slow time, you can do it. Making sure your customers know. The distributors have been fantastic. If you go to their website, Almost every distributor has a big thing on the top that says in-stock styles. What, if they're doing that for us, shouldn't we be doing that for our customers? We should be telling our customers, this is what you can do right now that will work. Get them before they need it. And this only works, obviously, if you have repeat clientele. If you're getting walk-in business, that's going to be a different story, but you can push the product if you know what those products are. You should have a list. You should have it in your back pocket and be able to pull it out and say, these are the ones that you can get right now. And these are the ones that you can get without missing a 2X. It has to be in a different size and a different color from a different state. It's going to be 5 days later. But this is the winners in business take these kind of things, and instead of saying, I'm sorry it's out of stock, they say, I'm sorry it's out of stock, but I can put you into this, and here's a sample of it. Here's something that costs the same, here's something that costs less, and here's something that costs more, and these are the trade-offs. And if you can proactively reach out to those customers before it becomes an issue, you're going to save everybody a lot of hassle. And most of you guys, I'm hoping that you have some kind of record-keeping system. For us, for instance, when we used to do a lot of custom work, at the beginning of every month we would meet with our team and we reviewed the last 3 years worth of orders that happened in that month. You know, what runs did we do the last 2 years? What did we do 2 years ago that we didn't do last year, but we might get back this year? So we look at those things, and we look in advance and solve the problem before it happens. And you just taken what could have been a serious distribution problem that made you look bad when it wasn't your fault, right? And you also made yourself look good, and you sold more product faster. Sorry, TED Talk over. You should probably also have a conversation with your customers about back orders before it becomes a back order. I can tell you how many people are back order and they want to get those 12 shirts out because they've got an event on Thursday, but they want 3 more next week when they actually come in. So if that product's not coming in, make sure they know what that cost is going to be. But those are the kind of things that the supply chain, the pandemic, the labor shortages have changed for everybody. I mean, even the product we get in on a regular basis, the suppliers are typically pretty fantastic. I do trust the supplier orders a lot less now than I used to. And that's because we know there's turnover at those places, and we know there's new people handling those, and things do slip through the cracks. So everything can't be based on cutting it down right to the wire anymore. You've got to plan ahead a little bit.
Thanks a lot for y'all's time today. I appreciate your expertise, your perspective, and for coming out to the show. Thank you so much. And just so y'all know, Nathan writes for Graphics Pro magazine, so you can catch his regular features in Graphics Pro magazine. And thank you for coming as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful talking to all of y'all. No, really, I appreciate y'all being here. I'm sorry, I'm the sarcastic one. But really, we appreciate y'all being here and taking the time to listen to us. It's always fun. I had a really great time. You guys want to talk afterwards? Totally can.